I've faced wendigos in the Rockies, silenced a shrieking demon in an abandoned school, and once outwitted a shapeshifter disguised as a priest. But this wasn't supposed to be anything. Just a hike, just intel, just another breadcrumb on the trail of something worse. I didn't bring silver, I didn't bring traps, and now there's blood on the snow, and something is howling with my name on its breath. 4 hours earlier. The trail was thinner than the map made it look, overgrown in places, snowed over in others, pines pressed in tight on either side, dark green arms heavy with snow, the kind of woods where you can feel your footsteps being swallowed the moment you lift your boot. No echo, no bird song, just quiet, a little too quiet. I adjusted my pack, tightened the strap on my rifle, and pressed on. Somewhere out here, maybe a mile deeper, something had been tearing livestock apart. Locals claimed it was a bear or a mountain lion, but the farmer's photos said otherwise. Clean decapitations, bones twisted like wet rags. One of the sheep had its lungs removed, but the rib cage was untouched. Demon, maybe. Cryptid, more likely. I was betting on a Wendigo cub, young, hungry, sloppy, the kind that didn't know how to clean up its mess yet. I was wrong. About 20 minutes in, I found the first sign that something was watching me. Not tracks, the lack of them. The woods were still, but the air had shifted. You know that feeling? Like you just stepped into a room someone else already left, but their breath is still hanging there. The snow was wrong too, soft and shallow at first, then suddenly deep and powdery. That meant disturbed ground. Something big had moved through here recently, stirring things up, but it wasn't heavy enough to leave deep prints. And then I saw them. Not the Wendigo tracks I expected, these were broader. Paw-shaped, but elongated. 5 points, thick heel. Too wide for a wolf. Too long for a bear. No claws. That's when I knew I was in trouble. I crouched, brushed snow away, and studied the print. Fresh, hours old at most. Whatever made it was fast, smart, and not interested in hiding. But it wasn't hunting sheep. It was stalking. I was supposed to find this. I was supposed to follow. I stood, slowly scanning the tree line. Nothing. I checked my phone. No signal. Not even emergency bands. I kept moving, but slower. Hand on my sidearm now, not the rifle. I didn't like the idea of fumbling with the scope if something charged me at 20 feet. I counted paces. 30, 50, 70. Each step sank deeper than the last. Then I heard it. Just one sound. A breath. But it didn't come from in front of me. It didn't come from behind. It came from above. Branches snapped. I turned, and that's all I remember clearly. The weight hit me like a truck, something massive, hot breath and snarling teeth. My shoulder erupted with pain as claws tore through the jacket and into the meat. I tried to scream, but snow filled my throat when I slammed down. It pinned me, knees on either side of my ribs, claws hooked into my collar. Its face was inches from mine. The eyes weren't wild. They weren't feral. They were focused. It was studying me. And then it grinned. Sharp teeth. Muzzle stained with something blacker than blood. It could have ended me right there, but it didn't. It leaned down and sniffed. Then it growled, low, hungry, but satisfied. and vanished. One blink, it was there. The next, it was gone. I lay in the snow, clutching my shoulder, bleeding into the dirt, and in the silence that followed, I heard it again, off in the trees this time. A howl, not a wild one, a warning. I wasn't the hunter anymore. I'd just become the prey. I've been mauled before, broken ribs, shattered femur, once took a fang clean through my thigh during a bog hunt in Mississippi. But this wasn't damage. This was butchery. Snow soaked into my jacket, mixing with blood until it felt like I'd been dipped in ice water. My right shoulder was a ruin, meat peeled back in ragged flaps, bone exposed, the joint grinding whenever I moved. My fingers tingled uselessly at my side, refusing to close around my sidearm. I don't know how long I lay there. The sky had gone from gray to purple by the time I blinked back enough clarity to sit upright. Somewhere, not far, wind howled through the pines, but it didn't feel like wind anymore. It felt like breath. I forced myself to stand. No plan, no path, just instinct. My boots crunched down through deeper snow with every step, like the forest wanted to slow me down. Trees leaned in, taller than before, shadows clinging to their bark. The wound throbbed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I wasn't healing fast enough. After maybe 20 minutes of dragging my feet through the snow, mostly downhill, I spotted what looked like a gash in the earth, tucked beneath a ridge of stone and rotting roots. A cave, narrow, just big enough for me to squeeze into if I ditched the pack. I didn't think. I crawled. Inside, the air was dry, cold, and still. Perfect for resting. Perfect for dying, too. I lit a flare. The red glow painted everything in dripping crimson. The stone walls gleamed with frost, the floor uneven and natural. No bones, no trash, no signs of animal activity. Nothing had made this home. I dropped to my knees and tore my jacket off. The sight made me reel. The claws had cut deep, deeper than they should have. Layers of muscle had been peeled back in strips, like someone had carved at me with purpose. Not for feeding, not to kill, to mark. I grit my teeth and went to work. Tourniquet above the bicep, field dressing over the worst of it. I dumped the last of my painkillers into my mouth and washed them down with a half-frozen mouthful from my canteen. I could still move my fingers, barely, but there'd be no lifting my rifle. I'd have to shoot left-handed if I had to shoot at all. I rigged a couple of quick traps at the mouth of the cave, low tripwire tied to a mess kit full of loose ammo and metal bits, enough to make a racket if something stepped wrong. And then I sat back against the far wall, flare flickering in its final minute, and tried to think. This wasn't some random encounter. It waited for me, stalked me. It knew who I was. That wasn't an ambush. It was an introduction. A story from my childhood rose up uninvited. My uncle told it one night around a campfire. A parable, he called it, about a hunter who tracked wolves for years, until one night a wolf tracked him. Not to kill him. Not yet. It wanted to know what kind of prey he'd be. It toyed with him, tasted his blood, learned his scent, and then let him live, so it could find him again. Some things, my uncle said, don't just want the kill, they want the game. I never believed that story until tonight. A faint noise pulled me back. Clink, then snap, then silence. One of my traps had gone off. I froze. Then another. Snap, followed by the tiniest tremor in the ground beneath me, like something had shifted its weight across the stones. I raised my pistol, left-handed, shaking badly. The flare dimmed to a whisper of red. In that dying light, something moved. It didn't enter the cave. It leaned in, just enough that I could see it. The eyes weren't glowing anymore. They were dim, black, reflecting nothing. A shape of fur and sinew and breath, taller than the ceiling allowed, but it bent, crouched low to study me from the edge of the dark like it had all the time in the world. It didn't growl, it exhaled, and I swear to God, I could feel it inside my chest, like my lungs were sinking with it. I aimed. It didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't blink. Then slowly, so slowly it made my skin crawl, it raised one clawed hand and touched the stone above the entrance. 3 long gouges, deep, deliberate, like it was signing its name. Then it stepped back. I didn't see it leave. I only knew it was gone when I realized I'd stopped breathing. My traps never reset. The wires were cut. It wanted me to know it had been inside. I didn't sleep that night because something worse than dying had begun to settle in my bones. The feeling that this wasn't just survival anymore. This was a game, and I was losing. By morning, the pain had leveled off into something dull and constant, like a tuning fork humming just beneath my skin. My shoulder had swollen to twice its size, pulsing with every heartbeat. I couldn't lift my arm anymore, could barely grip my weapon, but I was alive, and that meant I had a choice: stay and bleed out, or run and maybe die on my feet. The werewolf hadn't come back, but its presence still clung to the cave walls like humidity. The gouges it left above the entrance were fresh, the edges rimmed with frost from the cold night air. It hadn't just marked the stone. It had claimed me. I limped out into the pale light of morning. The snowfall had stopped. Everything was still, too still. My boots broke the crust of snow with brittle crunches. Every sound felt magnified. Every tree looked like it could breathe. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to keep moving. Staying meant death, or something worse, something slower. A half hour passed before I saw it again. Far ahead, down in the gulch, pacing between trees. The wolf, not crouched or stalking this time, walking upright. It moved like a man wearing its own skin wrong, shoulders hunched forward, joints too loose. It paused every few steps to sniff the air, then tilted its head toward the sky, like it was tasting time itself. It hadn't lost me. It was escorting me, pushing me, guiding me. I turned off course, north, toward the river. I remembered a ranger station a few miles down. Old, maybe abandoned, but I had to gamble. The snow got deeper, my legs heavier. The wound had started to weep again, the dressing soaked through. I stumbled, fell, crawled. Behind me, no sound, no cracking branches, but I could feel it, like a second pulse thudding against the back of my skull. Then I heard it, running, fast, getting closer. I turned just as the trees exploded behind me. It came low this time, charging on all fours, a blur of muscle and teeth. I dove, more like collapsed, to the side. It slammed into a tree, bark and snow erupting around it. The thing recovered instantly, skidding in the snow, claws digging in for traction. I raised my pistol with my good hand, fired 3 rounds into its chest. The first hit, the second dug deep, the third made it laugh, a dry, rumbling exhale that shivered down my spine. Then it pounced again. I didn't shoot. I rolled straight down the embankment. Branches tore at my face. Rocks bruised my ribs, but I didn't stop. I didn't think. I just fell. At the bottom, the river, half frozen, fast moving. I didn't hesitate. I jumped. The water hit like a truck made of knives. It tore the breath from my lungs, ripped the pain from my shoulder, and replaced it with something worse, numbness. I let the current take me, minutes, maybe more, until I saw it, wooden planks, an old dock. Hands grabbed me, voices shouted. Men in ranger jackets pulled me from the river and dragged me onto the snowbank. I coughed up blood and river water. Tried to speak, only one word came out. Wolf. They exchanged looks, confused, pitying, but one of them, the younger guy, froze. His eyes widened. You mean, like what we found up the ridge? He asked. I blinked. What? He didn't answer, just turned to the older ranger and whispered something I couldn't hear. They said they'd get me to a hospital, said I'd been lucky. But as they loaded me onto the sled, I caught sight of the younger ranger's neck, just below his collar. 3 fresh claw marks, red, deliberate, not torn, marked. I didn't kill it. I didn't even hurt it. I survived it. And that was all it wanted. The real hunt hasn't started yet. This was just its way of letting me know. I've been chosen. If you're still breathing, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you dare. There are plenty more nightmares waiting for you. And whatever you do, don't forget to ring the bell. It's the only way you'll hear the warnings in time.